And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be copying or creating the second part of our first person to third person, which is going to be the shooting. So in the last video, what we did was we were able to set up the gun for first person and third person. And now what we need to do is actually get this thing to shoot. So let's go ahead and get that started. So let's go ahead and switch over to our guy. Let's click on him. Let's go to Edit Blueprint. Let's go ahead and open up the editor. And what we basically want to do is, because remember what we did was we erased all the data or the code that we had for creating the projectile. So what we're actually going to do is copy the code from one of our other players, from one of the enemies. So if you go into your enemies and you look for, let's say, anything that shoots, so shoot move, shoot rotate, shoot roam, doesn't matter. Click on the character itself, open up its blueprint, scroll out until you find the information that was about the actual creating of the projectile. We'll take a look at this code in a minute, but spawn the projectile, add the impulse, what direction the thing is going to be going in, and the fact that it's going to repeat and delay. And then back here, is it being shot, and where is it being shot from, and where does it actually transform and create. Okay, so those are the pieces of the code. Let's go ahead and hit Control-C to copy. We're going to go back over to the first-person character. And I guess in between those two pieces, I guess that's where the code was before. Let's go ahead and hit Control-V. And there's going to be a few things, obviously, that are not going to be here, like we have not created that variable. This is named something differently. We need to go ahead and rename this variable and recreate it. And then the cube doesn't exist over here, so we're going to have to assign this to some other things. So before we do this, though, let me move these two guys out of the way. And let's go ahead and add the condition in for when it's going to shoot. So basically what's happening now is that since we don't have the control coming from those L control, R control pieces that were coming from over here, we actually have to assign this to an event. So the event that we can actually assign this to is going to be our left mouse click, which is what we were shooting with it before. So when we right click, we are going to click here and type in left click or left mouse click. Okay, so the event is going to be a left mouse click. Okay, so now that we have the left mouse button, what we need to do is actually very similar to what we did up here at the top, where we created two branches, and one was going to be the first person and the other one's going to be the third person. So let's go ahead and do the same thing again. So from here, we'll just set it up one more time. Won't take that long. So let's do is it in first person? We want to get the value. We're going to go ahead and attach this to a branch. So click out and type in if branch, connect that to pressed. So when we press it, it's going to look to see whether it is or it isn't. From there, we're going to grab one of these. We're going to set it now. And if it's true, and let's grab these and just move them down a little bit here. Okay, so if it is in first person, we want it to go to the top branch. Okay, and if it is not, so we'll go ahead and click another one of these, Control-C, Control-V. And if it's not, we want it to shoot out of the other one. So remember that clicking it here makes it true, not clicking it makes it false. So basically this is going to be the way that the left mouse button is going to know which one of the projectiles to fire out of. Okay, so we've got the code here for the shooting of the projectile. Let's go ahead and make a copy of this. So we're going to hit Control-C, Control-V. And that secondary copy is what we're going to click into the bottom here. Okay. Now, if you need to, like before, One of the things you could also do is go into each one of the bubbles and rename them or put the comments bubble across the top. And here we're going to type in FP, or we can actually type it out as first person. Okay, first person projectile. Okay. And with the second one, we will call it third person projectile. Okay. So now we obviously need to go into the code and we need to make a couple adjustments for a couple of variables that are not there, and also for obviously things that are not implemented, because remember we copied and pasted this, so we need to go back in and readjust the code. So the first thing we need to do is go into the branch condition. This no longer exists, so we need to replace that with a new one, and this is going to be the spawn projectile location. So let's go ahead and create one. So with that there, let's go ahead and call this FP, because it's going to be first person underscore spawn location. We know it's going to be for the projectile, and once it's there, let's go ahead and replace it. So we'll select this one, we'll delete that one, and we'll replace it with the other. Now before we move on and forget, go ahead and hit compile. That'll add the default value. Once it's there, make sure that you set it to yes. Now, because we've compiled, we actually get to see all the errors from the code. So let's go ahead and get rid of these one by one. So remember, this is the first person projectile, so we need the first person spawn location. So let's delete this and add the first person spawn location as the target. From there, the cube does not exist anymore, and this is going to be the same cube. This is now going to be the mesh. So it's going to be looking at the character to figure out what direction the character is going in. And let's go ahead and grab another. Oh, almost messed up. I grabbed, remember this is first person character, and I grabbed the third person mesh. So let's grab the first person mesh, and that is what we're going to connect there. I'm going to hit Control C, Control V to make a second copy, and we'll push that one into the impulse. Okay, from there, the next thing that we're going to need is a variable called shoot amount. So let's go into variables. Let's go ahead and call this shoot amount. Okay, and this is going to be to be a float. Let's go ahead and hit compile. That will then give us a default value. And let's give that value, let's say something like 10. Okay. Once we've got that variable, let's go ahead and attach it. And the last piece of this is going to be this part. Now we're going to actually delete the last two because we don't want this to delay. We want this to react to how fast the person is clicking their left mouse button. And so this actually needs to go as well. This is going to be the FP spawn location. And instead of the get, we're going to set it. And that'll set the value for that and make it also correct, so then that way it'll keep refiring. Okay, so now we have everything that we need for the first person projectile. Let's do the same thing for the bottom. Remember that this spawn location is going to be different, so let's go ahead and create another one. Actually, you know what? We should be able to use that again, because that is just giving us a yes to go ahead and to fire. Okay, this does need to be different, so we are going to need to make another spawn location, but this one for the third person. And it looks like I already did it, so let's go ahead and grab that and drag it down here. And again, we need to get rid of the cube. Now remember that this is the third person, so let's grab the third person mesh and not the arms, just the third person mesh. And add that in as the target. And again, all three of these can be deleted. And we're going to grab spawn FP spawn location, put it to set, connect it to the back, and make it true. Now, before we go, remember that this was something that we copied, and it just hit me as I was about to leave that right now the class that it's going to create is going to be this thing called RS1 Projectile. That is for one of my other characters that I have here. So what I want to do is underneath class, let's go ahead and click on there, and let's type in first person. And it's going to be the first person character projectile, so first person projectile. And we need to do the same thing for the one down here. Okay, so let's type in first person projectile. All right, so at this point we should be able to hit compile and save. And we have working code. Nothing seems to have an error. So let's go and see if this works. Let's close this and push play. Okay. So it looks like I'm shooting projectiles, but I'm shooting them from a weird location in first person. So let's move from that. Oops, I actually meant to check my third person projectile. So let's push play. Okay, let's switch positions. Okay, so what's probably happening there is that the ball itself is interacting with probably one of the meshes that we have. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. So let's go ahead and select the character, edit blueprint, open the blueprint, and let's go to our viewport. Let's look at our TC spawn, and that is maybe not far enough out in front, so let's go ahead and move it a little bit further out. Okay, we need to maybe a little bit up. Okay, so that should now be clearing just about everything. All right, now let's go to this one, and let's go to the first person projectile, and let's move that a little bit further out. So now let's go ahead and hit compile and save. And now let's see if we're having the same issues. Ah, I think I know why. Okay, let's check the other view. Okay, I know why. Let's go back to our first person character. Let's go to blueprints. Let's go to open blueprints. Let's go to the balls. Okay, so the balls are actually facing in that direction. That's why they're firing this way. So let's select that. Let's hit this and let's rotate it 90 degrees forward. Okay. So now the red is facing forward. Let's do the same thing with the other one, with the spawn location. That one isn't also going in that direction, so it was going to the right-hand side. So let's select that. Let's rotate it again 90 degrees. And let's see that the red is facing forward. Let's hit compile, save, and let's see if it works this time. Okay, they are going forward. And let's hit the, it looks like we got them. Let's hit the other one. And let's see that these are going forward as well. Okay, so we are definitely shooting balls, or the Nerf balls, both in first person and third person. We can switch views, and we can see that running forward, backward, we're not being hindered by where the ball is actually being generated. And if I go this way, we get the same thing. Now for me, maybe the only thing is that that feels a little bit far away. A little bit, maybe, not so much. It actually feels pretty good. Okay, I'm actually happy with that. Okay, so there we go. We've got everything shooting. We've got projectiles being loaded and being shot. We've got the gun in both first person and third person selected. And now we're ready to move on to the next part, which is going to be adding the Paragon characters. And also for those, it just crossed my mind that want to make sure that the sound of the firing happens. Let's go back to our first person and we'll add that in quickly. So we'll go back to the first person. We'll click Edit Blueprint, edit the blueprint. Let's go to the event graph. And then back here before the set, we'll type in, or we'll click and drag and we'll say play sound at location. And the sound that we want is going to be fire. And you can go through that and figure out which one. I believe it's this one, which is the fire sparks first person weapon. Okay, and we'll do the same thing with the other one. So we'll hit Control C, Control V, and you know what, not this one. Let's actually right click, play sound Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll do it this way. We'll just use something different for that. So again, we'll type in fire, scroll down to first person weapon sound. Okay, and for the location, get world location. And what we want is the first person mesh, but the arms, since the arms will be active when this is being shot. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing for the bottom, but we'll change the location. So we'll hit Control C, Control V. We'll connect that in. Okay, sound stays the same. The rest of the code stays the same, but we change the mesh. So this time it'll be the third person mesh. Okay, so we should be able to click compile and save. And now let's just go and check and make sure that this thing is indeed creating the shooting sound. Down I go. There we go, we got him. Okay, so that's first person. And third person. Okay, fantastic. So now we have everything back to where it was with our first person, third person character. And from here, the only thing we've got left is to add a Paragon character instead of the mannequin. And we will do that in the next series of tutorials. I'm sure that'll take at least one or two. So you guys have a wonderful day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.